A desperate mama dog stopped strangers in their tracks, barking and crying as if her heart was breaking. She refused food, refused comfort, and only begged them to follow. When rescuers finally did, they uncovered a hidden truth in a dark shed, one that left them in uncontrollable tears. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. It was late afternoon when the rescue team pulled into a quiet neighborhood, expecting just another routine call. The streets were nearly empty, the silence broken, only by the sound of their van's engine. But suddenly, from the corner of an alley, a dog appeared, thin, trembling, and frantic. She wasn't just wandering like a stray. The mama dog rushed straight toward the rescuers, barking desperately, her eyes wide with fear and urgency. She pawed at their legs, then darted back a few steps, as if begging them to follow. Her ribs showed beneath her dull coat, but it wasn't food she wanted. The rescuers exchanged nervous glances. This wasn't aggression, it was desperation. They had seen fear, hunger, and abandonment before, but this was different. This dog wasn't fighting for herself. She was pleading for something or someone else, and they knew they couldn't ignore her call. One rescuer knelt down and slowly held out a small piece of food, hoping to calm her. The mama dog sniffed it, but to everyone's surprise, she turned her head away. Her stomach was sunken, yet she wasn't interested in eating. Instead, she whined, circled twice, then barked again. She darted forward a few steps, then spun back to face them, eyes glistening. Her paws scratched at the dirt as if she couldn't wait any longer. The rescuers realized this wasn't about survival for her. This was about urgency. She needed them to come, to see what she was hiding. The team followed cautiously, still unsure. But every time they slowed, the mama dog returned, nudging their legs with her nose before running ahead again. Her behavior was unmistakable. She was leading them somewhere. One rescuer whispered, "She's trying to show us." In that moment, they understood. This was a mother's desperate plea, not for herself, but for the little lives depending on her. The rescuers quickened their pace as the mama dog bolted ahead, her paws pounding against the cracked pavement. She glanced back, every few seconds, barking urgently as if to make sure they were still following. Her body was weak, but the determination in her eyes gave her strength. Through winding alleys and across empty lots, she led them tirelessly. At times she disappeared around corners, their hearts racing until she reappeared, tail flicking, impatiently, urging them not to give up. It was as though every second mattered, like something fragile was hanging on by a thread. The rescuers stumbled over debris and squeezed through narrow paths, sweat dripping down their brows, but none of them dared stop. The mama dog's urgency was contagious, fueling their legs to keep moving. She wasn't leading them aimlessly, she knew exactly where she was going. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she slowed. Her barks softened into whines, and she trotted toward a broken-down shed at the edge of a deserted lot. She pawed at the door, looking back at the rescuers with pleading eyes. Their stomachs tightened. Whatever waited inside, they knew it was something they weren't prepared to forget. With trembling hands, one rescuer pulled the shed door open. The rusty hinges groaned, and a damp, foul smell hit them instantly. The mama dog rushed inside, whining loudly, circling a dark corner as if to guide their eyes to what mattered most. There, huddled together on a pile of rags and old trash, were tiny, fragile puppies. Their eyes were barely open, their ribs showing beneath thin skin. Some whimpered weakly, others lay frighteningly still. The rescuer's heart sank. This was the secret she had been carrying, the reason she had begged them to follow. One rescuer dropped to their knees, fighting back tears as they counted the little bodies. "Oh my God, she's been keeping them alive all on her own," another whispered. The mama dog nudged each pup gently, whining, licking their frail bodies as if pleading with the humans to save them now. The rescuers exchanged broken looks. The sight was overwhelming, not just the suffering, but the sheer devotion of this mother who had risked everything. Their throats tightened, their eyes blurred. They had seen many rescues before, but never a plea so raw, so desperate, and so heartbreakingly powerful. The rescuers quickly sprang into action, their hands moving with care and urgency. One by one, they lifted the fragile puppies from the filthy rags, wrapping them in soft blankets they had brought along. Each tiny whimper tugged at their hearts, reminding them how close these little ones had come to death. The mama dog paced frantically, her eyes darting from rescuer to puppy. At first, she let out anxious barks, her body trembling as if afraid. Her babies were being taken away forever. But then, as she saw the gentle hands cradling each pup, her panic softened. She leaned forward, licking the rescuer's arms, then each puppy's head, as if giving her permission. Tears filled the rescuer's eyes. "She trusts us?" one whispered, their voice breaking. It wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was a partnership, a mother pleading and humans answering. The mama dog pressed close, tail wagging faintly, her eyes glistening with hope. For the first time in days, she seemed to believe her family had a chance. The rescuers carried the puppies carefully into their van, the mama dog leaping in beside them without hesitation. As the engine roared to life, the team moved swiftly, wrapping each pup tighter in blankets to keep them warm. Their tiny bodies were weak, their breath shallow, their cries faint as whispers. At the shelter, the team rushed into action. Bowls of warm milk were prepared, syringes filled with fluids, heating pads spread across the floor. One by one, the puppies were fed, but several were too weak to suckle, their heads drooping lifelessly. Rescuers' hands trembled as they massaged tiny throats, coaxing them to swallow. The mama dog paced the room anxiously, whining, circling around the table. Every time a rescuer picked up one of her babies, she leaned in, licking their paws, as if to reassure them they weren't alone. When a pup whimpered, she pressed her nose close, refusing to leave its side. The room was tense, every rescuer fighting back tears, whispering encouragements. No one knew how many would survive the night, but they all knew one thing. They would not stop fighting, because this mama dog had already fought harder than anyone for her family. Morning light streamed into the shelter, and with it came a fragile sense of hope. The puppies, once silent and still, now stirred faintly under their blankets. Tiny cries echoed in the room, weak but steady, a sound that made the rescuers' hearts leap. Against the odds, life was fighting back. The mama dog, exhausted but vigilant, finally allowed herself to eat. For the first time in days, she devoured a full meal, pausing only to check on her pups. Afterward, she nestled down among them, licking each tiny body as if counting to be sure they were all still there. Her eyes, once clouded with fear, now glimmered with relief. The rescuers smiled through tears as they watched the transformation. The puppies nuzzled against their mother, drinking eagerly, their little tails twitching. The room, once filled with tension, now hummed with cautious joy. The worst had passed. For the first time, everyone dared to believe this little family might truly survive. Weeks passed, and the change was nothing short of a miracle. The once fragile puppies now tumbled across the shelter floor, their tiny paws clumsy but full of energy. Their coats grew shiny, their eyes bright, each playful bark a reminder of how far they had come. The mama dog, once thin and trembling, now stood tall and proud. Her body filled out with strength, and her tail wagged freely whenever she watched her puppies play. No longer desperate and afraid, she finally looked like what she truly was, a loving mother who had saved her family. Rescue workers couldn't help but smile as families began visiting the shelter, eager to meet the little ones. Adoption offers poured in, not just for the puppies, but for the mama dog too. This family that once faced death in a forgotten shed was now surrounded by love, safety, and the promise of forever homes.